So I'm just going to show you guys some new JavaScript tricks. Is that visible? I'm going to increase the font size. Okay, how's that? Visible or not?
I think we should turn off the lights.
You can shift it to white color if you want.
Oh, that's okay.
Control shift. You can change the color.
So I don't want
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, my editor is kind of dark because I like darkness. Alright. So here I have a simple HTML file that just includes a JavaScript file. Pretty simple enough? Yes? Alright. So first thing I'm going to start with is var let and const. So who has used this? Var?
Too many times.
Yep. Who knows about this and this? No, right?
Constants? Is that like final?
Sort of, yes. Okay, so can anyone guess what the problem with var is?
Not specific.
In what sense?
Like you can't write int or double. You can't use primitives.
Yeah, basically it's not specific. So you
Where because of blocks. So if anything is outside the block, where makes most of the thing global. Something like that.
Okay.
It is
so
not specific to a block.
Let me show you guys something then to demonstrate what the real problem is.
Is anyone's eyes hurt?
Do they? Okay, so I've got a bunch of code here, right? That's JavaScript, by the way. I declare a var x equals to 5. Now, can you guys tell me if the value of this variable might, let's say I didn't write this right now. I had this written already. Can you guys tell me if this value did change somewhere else in the code or no?
Probably.
Probably, right? But you're not sure, right? That's what this thing fixes. So instead of var, never use var, we use let and const. Basically what this means is, so if I write let x equals to 5, this means that the value of this variable can change somewhere in future. It will change in fact. And if I type const x or const y equals to 5, this means that y is always going to be 5. The value will never change. How does this help? Well, when you are reading the source code, it saves your time, right? Makes it easier to understand.
What's the difference between let and var?
Let and var, right? So let me demonstrate something now. Why is it showing red lines? Comma expected.
Can you zoom in a bit?
Are you doing that in JavaScript faster?
Okay. So I'm gonna write a simple for loop here. So for var r equals to 0, 6 plus plus. Okay, can anyone tell me what the value of I is going to be? Right here. Here in this line. The line number 12.
5?
6.
Oh.
6.
Yeah, 6.
But should it be 6 though? Because it's enclosed in a scope, right?
Yeah. It should not be.
Right? So that's what the problem is with var. Basically var can leak out of, var has something called the function scope. So even if you define it inside the loop or somewhere else, it's gonna be visible even outside the loop. That's really big problem. Well, you probably didn't realize it, why it's a problem, but as when you write bigger codes, it does become a design problem. Now just to show you guys. Okay, thank you. So just to differentiate it. Yeah, so as you can see, the var is actually leaking outside the loop. Now, if I put let here, let's try it again. See any difference?
I do not define.
So the scope of let is just within the loop. It doesn't leak outside the loop. Yeah? So that's the difference between let and var. Now for the const, if I try changing the const again, let's say I try reassigning the value, it is gonna give me the error to constant variable. So it makes your code easier to read. Okay, so yeah, clear enough? Now-
This one is
Oh, okay. Then why use var in the first place if there's constant problems like this?
What do you suggest with loops then?
Not use it, or use let and const to like more fixed.
Wait, sorry, say again?
Like I mean, since let and const are more controlled, why not just use them instead of var?
Yep, that's what the preferred way is. Use let and const
Yeah,
inside.
he's saying don't use one.
Yeah.
he's asking why we are using var, not let and const.
Oh, why we are using var? So, I'm not sure honestly. Probably it's because of compatibility. This let and const these were introduced in 2015, right?
Oh.
Right.
So
I
it's
don't know
recent.
why some people would like to target Internet Explorer 8 or 7, because those are the guys that don't support it, which is probably why we use it. But in real life, in the actual enterprise world, I don't think anyone uses this anymore. In this school, yes, you will learn with var, but don't use it. Yep. Does that answer your question?
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
So, do you guys know about callbacks?
No.
You know? Okay, so who knows about this function? Septama.
Yes, I know.
Oh yeah.
No.
No? Okay, I'm gonna create a simpler function then. Function
You don't need semicolon?
yeah, so semicolons in JavaScript are optional. It's your wish if you want to use it.
So
Yep, go ahead.
We need to use semicolons while declaring the variables, most probably.
No, you never need to use semicolons. It's optional entirely. Which one's preferred? None really. Both are equally used. In fact, this is like an iOS versus Android battle, where people are like, put semicolons or don't. So it's your wish, honestly. Okay, so this is the example of a callback. I don't know if you guys can see it. So I have a function there called add. Actually, let me complete this function first. So first, this function returns an array of 2 numbers, right? 1 and 2. So I've got this function that returns an array, and this is the function that takes an array and adds the two numbers inside an array. Simple to understand? Yeah. So callback means when you pass a function as parameter to another function. Just a second, let me grab this. Yep, this. Okay. So that's what callback is. When you pass function as a parameter to another function. So here's the function. This is my function name. I'm passing this as parameter to my add function. And what the add function does is, it executes that function. Now when you execute this function,
You can try to print it on the console below terminal, if possible.
it's fine.
What did it do?
Okay, much better. Okay, so I'm gonna comment out the previous route. So yeah, if I print this, it returns me two arrays, right? This function. Clear with that? So basically when you pass function as a parameter to another function, that's called a callback. Why would you want to do that? Sometimes, well, function's value, you want to get the function's value and do something with it within your own function. Actually, this practice is kind of discouraged these days, calling callbacks. There are a lot of design patterns against this, but just to demonstrate for this purpose. So is this clear what callbacks are or not?
Can you repeat again, please, about callback?
Can you explain?
How the function is running, calling each other.
So this is a function that returns an array of two numbers, right? Correct?
Yeah.
So if I execute this function, I get two arrays. Here's the value of those two arrays. Now, what I'm doing is, I'm passing this function's name to the add function. So I'm just passing this function to the add function. Right? Clear? Right here. So I pass this function. Now my numbers parameter is this function. Then I execute this function and then get the first value inside the array. Then I execute this function and get the second value inside the array. Does that make any sense or no? Yeah. Well, you guys pass parameters, right? You pass strings, integers to function parameters.
Yeah.
So instead of those parameters, you just have to pass the function itself.
Okay.
That's the only difference. That's what the callback is. When you pass function to a function.
Okay.
Now you can execute this function whenever you want to, right? For example, see if this helps. Okay, for example, I execute this function, the value of nums is gonna become 1 and 2 because this is what the function returns, right? Is this making any sense or?
Should we get numbers instead of numbers?
Yeah, we can do that too.
Can you display this thing while debugger, like where the bug things are going on? Might that help?
Sure, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Well, you can name it anything, right? Okay, so I'm just passing this function and then executing it. The value of nums, let me just show it right here. By the way, this blue thing is the output of console.log, so I don't have to go in browser. So as you can see, the value of nums is 1 and 2. So I'm just passing a function, executing it and getting the value because it returns a value. Clear enough? Yeah? Yep, go ahead.
So, in the 33rd line, what if you have a variable named get numbers? So, which one would be given preference?
You can do that. It is going to give you an error.
Oh. So, I'll get an error while creating the variable?
Yep. So you can create a variable and a function with same name in the same scope. Do you guys understand what a scope is?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you can do that. It's same as Java practices, kind of. So is this clear what a function callback is?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me show you guys a new way of using the loops. So usually you have an array like this. 4, 5, 6, okay. I'm gonna name it const array. Usually this is what you do. Okay. So this is what your usual loop looks like. So this is kind of separate. But there's another more efficient way to write this loop. For example, if I do this. How about this? So you can write this same loop like this. So what's happening here? Let's see it. So this is my function. That's a usual function called for each, right? And then I'm passing it a function. So this is a callback. Kind of similar to what we did above here. Just passing a function. And then we just console.log it. If I wanted to split it, I would do it something like this. Let me call this function print. Then I'm gonna call it number, and then I'm gonna print the number. And then print. Yep. Make any sense? We have a function called number. And then we just pass a function to for each.
Can you zoom in a bit?
Zoom in.
Yeah. Just make it 28. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so here my number takes a parameter, right? What the for each does is, when it executes my function, it returns the element of the array inside my function. So it's gonna replace this number with the element inside the array. So it's gonna replace it with 1, then with 2, 4, 5, whatever. Yeah, does that make any sense or no?
Sorry? What's it?
Does that make any sense or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just passing a function inside a function, the callback. Let me show you guys something here. Okay, so let's say I want to take a parameter. Instead of manually specifying these two numbers, I want the user of this function to specify one of the numbers. So I'm going to call it mynum. And I'm going to return mynum as my second element, right? Now, what I'm going to do is, here I can pass my own number. So this parameter, I can pass it here. For example, if I want mynum to be 4, just write 4. So see what I mean? I can pass the parameters while I execute the function. And that's what's happening here. Let me know if something's not clear, so I can try again, maybe. Yep, good enough? Okay.
But what's happening in for each?
So for each is a function for the arrays, right? It's a method for the arrays. You can execute on any array.
So that function is already defined.
Yep, it's already defined. It's part of the JavaScript. And this function takes function as a parameter. Just what I explained, the callback. Right? And then it passes an element to the callback as a parameter. Just like we are doing here. We are passing 4 on our own to our callback. Yep. Let me know if you need help with this. Also, I would suggest that it's okay if you guys are trying it, but I would suggest that you for now just listen to this, because understanding this concept is very important than the syntax. I'm going to post this online anyway. So yeah. Okay. I'm going to move on now, yeah? Now the thing is, we programmers are all very, very lazy, like really lazy. So they implement special features within the language itself to allow us to write less code and do more. What do I mean? So these two statements are basically same as this one statement. Make sense? Instead of passing the function with the number or the name, I'm just passing the function directly.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah? Make sense? These two are exactly the same. Now, I can simplify this further. Whoa. Ever seen something like that?
Yes.
Just one line. I know you have seen it.
Yes, the arrow thing.
Yeah, I did arrow.
Yeah. Ever seen? So first, I'm going to explain to you how awesome this is, but
I
first
will
I need to make sure that you guys understand this. The concept of callbacks. Because if you don't understand callbacks, then this is not going to make any sense. So, are we all clear here?
Yeah.
Don't be shy, guys. Okay. So, what is this arrow? This is called an arrow function or the lambda function. Just to spell it out. Lambda function or arrow function. What's the exact name? Well, I don't really know, because in some languages like Java, you call it lambda. In JavaScript, you usually call it arrow. So
In
call it
C#
whatever.
it's link.
No, it's not link. It's lambda.
Yeah.
It's link.
It's lambda. Link is
Okay.
different. Okay. So the way it works is, my usual function, instead of, okay, let me just copy paste this exactly. I'm a lazy guy. So what I can do is, it's obvious that this function is going to take a function as parameter, right? It is a callback. It is going to take a parameter. So what I can do is, I remove this line. I remove the word function. This function right here. I remove this keyword. And I insert an arrow between a curly brace and the parameter name. Simple as that. So, remove the function keyword and insert the arrow. Yeah, did that make any sense?
So
So the arrow is an equal sign with the right angle function?
Yeah,
Wow.
so my editor, I've kind of configured it to do that. Whoa. Okay.
the log.
In reality, it's equal to this. I know it shows as one sign, but these are two characters. I've configured my editor to do that. It does pretty awesome stuff, like this is greater than or equal to, triple equals to, so stuff like that. Yeah, makes it easier to read. Okay, so was that clear enough what I did here?
Yeah.
Just remove the keyword function right here and put an arrow here. Here, let me just write it down to make it clear. That's less than, right? Whatever it is. Pretty simple enough. Let's try once more. Another one. So here's another function. Basically what this function does is, let me show you guys what this does.
But I think you're writing outside the function.
Okay, what's that?
Yeah, you're writing outside the function.
Oh, yeah, about that too. So, going back to callbacks again. And this thing, okay, I'm gonna leave it for now. So, we passed a function here, right? What if I want a second parameter? Now this time, I want a string to add to it. So I'm gonna write it string to add. And what I wanna do is, I wanna add a string to these two numbers. So string to add. Simple enough for now? Yep. Now, here, I'm only passing one function here, right? What about the second parameter? It's supposed to be a string that we need to add. So how would you do that? Just comma and the string to add. So you can pass multiple parameters to it.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense?
Yeah.
And this is kind of what I'm doing right here. Let me convert this. So I'm gonna move this function outside. Gonna call it some dumb name like myfunc. Okay, so I'm passing a function and a parameter of 5000. Yep. Now what this set timeout does is, by the way, set timeout is a part of JavaScript, if that wasn't clear enough. It's part of JavaScript itself. So what this function does is, it's gonna execute this function after 5 seconds, or 5000 milliseconds. Let me show you guys. So I'm waiting here, just keep a look over there, yeah. So, see that? Let me do it once again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, anytime now. Anytime now? Yeah, there you go. So basically it waits for X number of seconds and then runs the function. Yeah, good enough? Now, if I want to transform this into an arrow function, let me leave it over here. I'll copy paste the source code again. Okay, so this is how it is, right? That's how you pass functions. Also, when you directly pass the functions as parameters, you don't specify the function name. The function name is only specified when the function is outside, on its own. You don't need to specify the function name when you pass it in as parameter.
Okay.
Okay. So, how do we transform again? Remove the word function as written right here. Okay, removing the word function and put equals and less than next to parameters, or greater than actually. Okay. Greater than, okay. So equals to and less than. Simple enough? Yeah? We don't have any parameter here, so it doesn't really matter. We can just put blank braces. Did that make any sense?
Yes.
How about if we need to pass multiple parameters? So, for each function. Let me show you guys how to read the documentation if you ever forget what the function is. So I'm going to go to Chrome and I'm going to type here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but JavaScript for each. How many of you guys are familiar with W3 schools? And how many of you are familiar with Mozilla Developer Network? Good enough. No one else? Okay, so W3 schools is okay for when you're starting out, you're new, but it's kind of outdated and it misses a lot of design patterns and similar stuff. You should be following developer.mozilla. Let me just zoom in. So, use this website instead of W3 schools. This one. It's harder to read, the documentation is more thorough, but it's better. And it's more trustworthy. So, I'm just going to go ahead and read about what the for each means. Yep. Let's see. So, this is where they specify how to use the function. Syntax. So, we pass a callback first. Yes. Clear enough. We did that. Taking no. It gives you 3 arguments. One is current value, which is equal to this argument right here. And next 3 are optional arguments. It says optional right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. So optional arguments are the index, array, and forget this one for now. Index and array. So what this means is, optionally, along with the current arrays element, I can also take the index of that element. So index would mean this thing. This is your index basically, right? But if you need the index, you got the element right here. But what if you need the index? So this is what gives you the index. So let me just do it. So yeah, that's it basically. See that? It's gonna give me the indexes of the, oh come on, yeah, there we go. So this is gonna print the array itself, and this is gonna give me the index. Now, to transform this in, so in arrow functions, this is how you specify multiple parameters. Just put them in curly braces, just as you usually do with other functions. Like right here you would do something like this, right? Something similar like that. It's same stuff in arrow functions too. The only difference between arrow function and this sort of function is you don't have to write the keyword function, and you put the arrow and equals to an arrow in between the curly braces and name. So who's clear with the arrow functions? Or who needs help? You need help? No? Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna move on now. Now I'm gonna show you an interesting way to concatenate strings. But here's a catch though. Don't use it in class because some professors don't know it. I had this problem with my professor. He deducted my midterm marks to a significant level and we had some fun, yeah. Just to say that. Okay, so this is usually how you do it. String A plus string B, and if I have a variable here, 0009, I don't know why I wrote that, but okay, there you go, happy, yeah. Plus B. This is kind of how you concatenate the strings, right? The old, sad, slow way, there's a lot of effort, but if you had to add like 10 of those variables, so you would go plus, 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 plus. Yep. Now here's an interesting way.
How do you put the dollars?
Wait, what does the dollar sign do?
Yep, I'm gonna explain that. So first of all, same result, but look at the amount of effort I have to do. Not a single plus sign and way easier to read, right? Now, how does the syntax work? First things first. This is not a single quote. You guys can use single quotes in JavaScript, as you know. You can also do this, same thing. But this is not a single stroke, a single column. Yep. This is the key under your escape key. It's called a backtick. So it's called backtick. This is what you call this key. Right under your escape, where you have this weird key that looks like that.
Swordly.
swiggly or twiggly, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so yeah, that's where you have this key. Usually, you might have it at a different place. So what you do is you write the string in it, just like you would as normal. Same thing. The only difference is it allows you to add the variables by default without adding the plus sign. And the way to do that is add a $sign and curly braces and write the variable name inside it. Oh, what's that?
I forgot to put my parking pass on my car.
Oh. Sorry. Okay, so that's all you have to do. Add a $sign and curly braces and write the name of the variable. So backticks $sign and then with curly braces write so yeah, that's it. Good enough? Yeah, makes sense?
So that's for concatenation.
Yeah, that's for string concatenation. That's basically, this statement is same as this statement right here. This one is just way easier to write.
If you have more than one variable,
Yeah, so just keep going on. So if I have const c equals to 0, I can just go dollar, once again, c.
and then if we have string, then just write.
Yep, just
strings.
write the string. Yeah? Sounds pretty interesting, right? Okay. So, now I'm going to show you some interesting functions. First of all, is everyone clear with callbacks and arrow functions?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. Now I'm going to show you what's called as, let me just, higher order functions. Or we are going to talk about the functions called as map, no, actually filter, map, and reduce. This one's a bit complex, reduce, so I'll see if I can explain it in a good way. Otherwise, just read the Java docs, I guess, JavaScript docs. I'm going to try to explain these two though. So I have an array, right? Test array, const test array. Could be anything. Okay, so that's my array. What I want to do is, I want every element from this array, but I don't want zeros. So every element except zeros. This is how you would typically do it in your JavaScript style. So I'm going to use let. I forgot the word. Never mention the word where again. That's offensive. Okay. So let I equals to 0 till I is less than test array dot length I plus plus, making me write so much. Okay. If I equals 0, no, actually I need another variable here. So I'm gonna call it my array. That's a very dumb name, but whatever. Okay. If I is not equal to 0, then I want to my array I equals to test array I. This is what I need to do. So I want every element except zeros. So I'm gonna iterate over that array and condition for it not equal to 0, then add it to my array. Yeah? This is what I need to do, right? Anyone having any shorter code than this?
This is wrong, I think so. Like,
How's that?
because I is a text value, no?
Wait, what's that?
I is a text value, like it's not the value of the what's inside the array.
Yeah, it is kind of wrong because if I skip this variable, then this place is gonna be undefined. It's gonna be empty, but that's fine.
No. He's saying if statement is wrong.
Oh yeah, true. Okay, nice, good one. Thank you. Well, just I'm gonna do this. Yep, makes sense now.
Yeah.
Test it. I equals to 0. All right. So any shorter way to do this? Anyone? I'm gonna give you 25 cents exactly because that's all I have in cash. If you figure this out.
Probably, I'm guessing it has something to do with the filter function.
Mhm.
You just filter out the zeros. I think it takes the numbers which have inputs which have to be filtered out. You can just pass it as an argument and just get it in a statement.
100 marks. Okay.
25 cents.
Well, kind of. well, sure. I'll give you a when this is over. Sure. Okay. Now, I'm gonna do it my way. So can anyone suggest me some good name other than my array and my functions?
Sarvesh.
Wait, what?
That's my name.
Starfish?
Sarvesh, no? S-A-R-V-E-S-H.
Oh, that's okay. I've already told you. Okay. So this is how we are gonna do it now. Test array dot filter number is not equal to 0. How does that look like? Oh wait, let me put curly braces here. So, okay, imagine doing all of this and hating your life, questioning your bank budget, and doing this and living happily ever after. What's it?
On the screen behind you.
You should recharge your laptop, man. Okay. I'll print the value? No? Yeah. Okay. So I can check the value of the variable if I write it over here. It's gonna show me the value here. So don't worry about this. But think about these 3 lines versus all of this block. So what we are doing here is passing callback and then just saying number is not equal to 0. So this is essentially equal to starfish 2. Why did I name it that? Okay, gonna call it filter function. Function filter number So, okay, so this is same as these 3 lines. Just a callback function, right? And they have the same value. Oh, come on, print the value. Yes, there we go. How is that? So over here, we had to take care of, now, wait a sec, let me print this, my array. Come on, print it out. Waiting, so much waiting. Ah, there we go. Now notice that this has some blank values or nulls, undefined, aka stuff that makes our code problematic, that makes us lose hairs and debug it. But here, it's consistent. No blank values, no drama, nothing. Just plain filtering. How's that? So yeah, clear enough? Clear? Yeah,
We
go
can
on.
do one more thing like my array dot push, if that works better.
Okay, yeah. There's a function called myArray.push, and this is how you can use it. So what this does is, this is gonna push this value at the end of the array. Doesn't matter what the index is, how many elements are already there, it's just gonna push it to the end of the array. But that's not what we are focusing on right now. What I want to show you guys is this function right here, the filter function. Yeah, good. Who needs help with this? Yeah, go ahead.
So if you write number not equal to 0, it doesn't give a boolean here in JavaScript, right?
It gives you a boolean, yeah. You have to return a boolean. It could be false. So if I return false right here, false.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean the statement number not equal to 0. So why doesn't, so in JavaScript it doesn't return a boolean, is it? Because in Python I guess it returns like that.
It does
I was
return.
more of expecting the return type to be a boolean for this.
It does return a boolean.
So why does in the 117th line, why does it give the array of,
Oh, so what this is doing is, this is printing the value of this array. So, oh, you mean the filter function?
yeah,
What does this return?
no, in the 112th line, earlier you had a function, right?
Yep.
I mean the statement, number not,
Oh yeah, so I had this, right, okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
So what's the return type of number not equal to 0?
Okay, so the way filter function, let me show you guys the thingy here. Thingy. That's a nice way to describe it. I'm gonna go to filter. Show me the documentation for filter. Filter. Yes. Okay, let's read it. So it takes a callback function, good enough. Then in that callback function, the first parameter is the number it returns. Okay, so read this line. I want you guys to read this line. That callback function should return true to keep the element false otherwise. So if you return true from here, it's gonna keep the value, otherwise it's gonna keep false. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Or, yeah? There's another thing that I want to show you guys, that it resolves. Let's say I do something like this. Okay, so I'm getting the length of the array, and then I'm also adding to the array. What does this cause? Let's run it.
Shouldn't it be myArray dot push of test array?
Yep, it should be my array. But what I'm doing is, I'm getting the element from this array and also pushing to it. And I'm also looping on this array. So forget this array for now. There's no such thing as my array. There's only test array. What do you guys think this is gonna cause?
Infinite loop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right? Infinite loop, let's see it. And meanwhile, my Chrome. Guys, come on.
Probably the infinite loop.
Well, what's that?
Probably the infinite loop, that's why it keeps running.
True, it could be, yeah. But it should at least open my console window.
Yeah.
I really like it. See you next week.
Well, you can just try myArray and then.
Yeah, let me just try commenting it out if this is what's causing the problem. Refresh. Go. Oh yeah. So anyways, the point was, it was infinite loop, right? Now, if I do something like that in this function, let me show you guys what I mean. Why do I have so much stuff open? Go away. Get out of my life. So, reading the parameters again. The first parameter is the element. Okay. The second parameter is the index. Okay. And the third parameter is the array on which the filter function was called. Okay. So this is our original array. Yeah. What I'm gonna do is this. Yep, this one. Okay, so I'm gonna do okay, so concat is like push function. Basically it adds the element to the array or end of the array, right? Now, if this thing decides to work, okay. Do I still have this on here? So commenting this out. That's weird.
Why are you starting this one?
Maybe. Okay, so no infinite loop, even though I'm pushing to the array. So if I print the array right here, any ideas why is this running? And why did push cause problems? Both do the same thing, both push at the end of the array. Why did this one cause the problems and this did not? Any ideas?
So in the first one, it is adding one by one, and as the elements are increasing, it is pushing again and again. In the second one, it's already taken the elements which are supposed to be pushed, so it just happened once.
Not really. It's also pushing at every iteration, like the first one. So everything is same, just this concat function. Only the way I'm pushing is different. So what's the difference between this function and this function? Both add at the end of the array. Let me show you guys this way then. Let's see if this makes it more clear. I'll comment this out. Distribute this. So, const t array. I'll come up with awesome variable names. So I got the array here. I'm gonna do t array dot push 0. Then I'm gonna print out the t array. T array 2. This time I'm gonna use the concat function. Okay, so come on, print it out. How do I explain this? Let's see. Oh, yeah. I'm printing the T array too. Never mind. Okay. So the same result. Okay, so I'm messing up somewhere. I wanted to explain something, about immutability, but apparently it's not working the way I thought it was. So I guess we're just moving on. Oh no, it is working, never mind. Okay. That was weird. So, do you guys see any difference? Let me show you guys something else. Const final array. Not here. Here. Okay. So take a look at the difference. And yes. So push, the value of t array is 0. Yep. And concat, the value of t array 2 is the same. It's not adding the 0 to it. But if I assign this to the final array has 0 in it. Any ideas why?
So it modifies it, but and it returns the array. So so concat has a purpose only if some variable uses the return type of the function on which concat is used, or of the array on which concat is used.
That's one way to say it, yep. But what's the major point here? The major point is that it leaves the original array alone.
Yeah.
The original array is the way it is. Now what does it matter? Why do we care about modifying our original array or no? This is something called as immutability. Yep. So, in programming, you are going to have multiple threads, right? Multiple threads, multiple cores, writing and reading at the same times. So let's say one of my cores changes the value of this array, and then the other core reads it. Now the value of this array is not as what it was expected, right? The other core is going to get confused. Correct? Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that means if that core processes the array again, it's going to give me some wrong result. But if I leave this array alone, just like I did here, no matter who reads it or what reads it, the value is going to be same. The result is going to be what we expect it to be. So that's what immutability means. So to put it in words, we put it in, let's say, ghetto words. We leave the original array alone and create the copy of, not array, could be any variable. Copy of the variable and use that or modify that. So that's what it is. Well, it's a bit of an really advanced concept, so if it's not clear, that's okay. But let me know if you guys want to ask anything about this, or should we just move on?
Can I explain the meaning of immutability again, please?
What?
What?
What did you say?
The meaning of the immutability.
So here it is. We leave the original variable alone, create the copy of variable, and use that instead. So we make all the changes to that copy, read from that copy, do whatever with that copy. It's like when you guys try to plagiarize your friend's code. You don't directly plagiarize his code, you copy his code into your computer and then plagiarize it. That was a joke, I'm not serious. Okay, yeah? Make sense?
Yeah.
So you just create the copy of that variable and use it instead. Finally, why we do that? Why? Because multiple things can be accessing the variable at same time, and we want consistent results. Not something that happened here. Remember the infinite loop that messed up everything? We don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Next function I'm going to show you guys is the map function. So filter function, it filters the array. Map function, let's see what the map does. I'm just going to copy paste this array right here. Let's say I want to multiply every element of this array by 2. So typically this is what I would do.
You want to consider changing the name of the tar
No. Okay.
because it's a const.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, good idea. It's gonna give me an error.
You can name it blah.
Tar 3. There's tar 2, so this is gonna be my tar 3. Alright. So into 2. This is what I would do if I wanna multiply every element by 2. Yeah, this is what I would do, right? Correct? Any short ways of doing this? Any ideas? Before you say that I can do this, okay, I can also do this, sort of. But any other short ways? So any of these two ways, except this. Any shorter way? No? So 25 cents people.
Yeah, we can use for each and use a lambda function.
For each and lambda. Let's see how we will do with that. So first is the element or the number, and then is the index, and this is a callback function, and we return number into 3. Or wait, we also need the original array.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do array I, it's not return, array
Yeah.
I equals to array I into 3.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
should do.
this is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Any other shorter ways? Well, we are lazy, right? We need better ways to do this. Come on, guys.
Obviously map.
Obviously map, true story. Okay, moving on. So tar, now take a look at this.
Tar
Tar 3, yep, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna create a copy of this variable. Wanna call it tar 4? Might as well just call it array 4. Why put it T? Okay, so array4.map again. So every function normally takes a callback, and this too takes a callback. Number, return number into 4. How's that? And I'm gonna have to reassign it. Remember, so all these 3 functions don't modify the original variable. They leave the original variable as they are. So it's immutability, right? They do that by default. So we need to assign it again to array 4. Yeah, make sense?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's const. It can't be reassigning with const, so let. And this has to be number. So there you go. Yeah? So comparing to for each, we save a bunch of this stuff, what the heck, and also this stuff, and what the hell is that? No, not doing that. Actually, this is what it is. Yep, total messed up stuff. Versus this. Yeah, easy, right?
Yeah.
And that multiplies your number by 4. And you can do anything. You can even add a string to it. So do whatever. Yep, okay.
Can we use backtick?
Well, can we use backtick? Yeah, we can use backtick. Dollar, curly braces, and into 4 plus the string, whatever. Yeah, makes sense? Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So we can get the same output from filter and map, right?
Filter and map? No, filter is for filtering the variables. It removes, for example, if I use, where is it? Yeah. So if I do this, it's gonna remove every variable where the number is not equal to 0, or every value where the number is not equal to 0. Yeah? Any questions so far? Okay, moving on. What if I told you guys there's a even shorter way to write this? I'm just going to leave it here. I won't explain it now because that might be too much, but you can basically convert all of this statement into this. Watch this. So I'm just going to leave it here. Play with this on your own. I won't explain into it right now. This is also part of arrow function. So imagine writing this versus writing that. Counting the number of characters. That's 87 characters right there. Plus we did not add this yet. So let's make the computation fair. So this is 87 characters. Or 70. And this is 37. So almost half. Saves time, right? So I'm gonna move on to reduce now. Any questions about filter, map, immutability, anything? No? Once again, we have an array with a really boring variable name. I'm gonna call it let's call it potato. Just because, okay. Now, who knows about JSON here? Yeah? No? Okay. So, what I want to do is, I want to add all of these numbers. I want to sum them. This is what you would typically do to add these numbers. Potato. Sounds good. Then sum equals to 0. Start with a variable with 0 sum, and then sum equals to sum plus I, or potato I. This is what you would do, right? Something silly, sad, boring, and then this happens. Okay. So this is what you would do to add it, right? Now, this is where the reduce comes in. So what reduce does is, it's used to convert this array into totally something different. So this is the difference between map and reduce. Map converts every individual element into something else. Reduce converts the whole array into something else. For example, if I want string out of this array or sum out of this array, that's where the reduce comes in. But if I want to add or subtract or something, that's where the map comes in. Clear enough? Let me just show you guys what I mean. So I'm going to comment this out. And once again, immutability. So we need to reassign it. Potato equals to damn, I should not have used this variable names. Reduce. As usual, a callback function. Let's read the documentation now. My favorite part or not. Reduce. Whoa, that's a lot of stuff right there. So let's focus on this. Takes a callback, a function that has accumulated. Talk about fancy words. Okay. So I'm going to call it sum. Then the current value. That's good enough. Does this syntax make any sense? So I have a callback function that takes two parameters, sum and current value, and then I have another parameter that's 0. I'll explain what this means, but does that syntax make any sense? Any questions? Okay, so let me write it this way. This is equal to, this is same as this. Function reduce func, whatever name you guys want to give it. Okay, so this thing, these three lines right here, my shift key is broken, so excuse me. These three lines are same as these lines. Make sense? Yeah, simple enough?
Yeah.
Just passing a function, let's call back function, right? Now, reduce takes two parameters. First is the function which it has to run, and second is something you call as the starting value. What does that mean? I want to sum all of these numbers, right? So I need an initial number to sum into them. So I'm going to choose 0. For example, 0 plus 1 plus 4 plus 6 plus 7. So 0, yeah? That's my initial number. Now, what I'm going to do is sum equals to sum plus current value. Return sum. Gonna comment this out. Wait for it. Shut up, please. Did that work? Oh, actually, sum equals to. Should probably change the variable name here. Const final sum. And then I'm going to print final sum. What I'm going to do. Come on, show me the output. SOC in browser. Log, final number, answer.
Yeah. Basically, interrupt tar dot for each you can just do tar tree.
That's okay. Okay, so ignore this stuff. You guys see the number 18 there? That's basically the sum of these numbers, right? Yeah? So that's what the reduce is used for. If you want to do a collective operation on the array, like transform it into something totally different. If I wanted to create a string out of this, this is what I would do. So final string, we got string here. String equals to string plus current value and return the string. And we start with the blank string. Oh, now it's printing the value. Nice. And my battery is low. Okay. So see that? Any questions about this? Is this clear enough? Yeah? Yes? No? No? Maybe a little bit.
Can you just put something in between that single, whatever you call it?
Like the starting code
Yeah.
you put. Just
Start-
try to put give some initial value other than empty block.
Okay, so other than empty block, I'm gonna give it
Blank.
my value, the most boring value ever. Okay, so there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what this means. So starting value plus add the elements of this array. Got it? Any questions about filter, map, reduce, immutability, var, const, arrow functions, anything? Yeah. So yeah, that, well, there's a lot of stuff more, but I think this is good enough for today. I'm gonna post this code online. Seth is gonna post you guys a link if you guys wanna have a look at it. Feel free to ask me questions. for now. Anything you guys want to ask me related to this?
You wanna tell about some resources where they can learn things about this? ES6,
So where you can learn JavaScript? Let's see.
javascript.info.
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know any specific websites. I just go to YouTube and watch tutorials when I need to. So yeah, just keep creating projects. That's the only way to learn. There's no single resource where you can learn everything. Or which is the most. People ask me what's the most reliable source to learn things. There's no such thing as most reliable source. You take a lot of resources, combine them, put them in your brain, try to process them. And that's how you learn. And make sure you practice, don't read it like a novel. This is not a storybook. Create products and stuff. That's going to help you in co-op also.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's it.
Thank you.